We're going to call our meeting to order of December 3rd, 2018 with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. All right, our first order of business is approval of minutes from the November 9th, 2018 regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Okay, we now want to congratulate Jessie Pugh for his election to the town council, and he was unable to attend our first meeting, but we are going to have a formal swearing in ceremony for him this evening. So we will get that started with our town clerk. Yes, yes. It's,
That's my,
yeah,
sure.
yeah. So. Yeah.
Perfect timing. Do you want to come up? Yeah. Okay. Hey, Callie. Callie, come on. You can come up. Izzy. Izzy.
Want to get sworn in with your dad? Then you're going to be on TV. So stand over here. Okay, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name.
I, Jessie Pugh,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will be true and faithful unto this state
that I will be true and faithful to the state
and support the laws and constitution thereof,
and support the laws and constitution thereof,
the laws and constitution of the United States,
the laws and constitution of the United States,
the Narragansett Town Charter and ordinances,
the Narragansett Town Charter and ordinances,
and that you will well and truly execute the office of town council
and that I will well and truly execute the office of town council
for the term which you have been elected or until another be engaged in your place,
for the term that I have been elected or until another be engaged in my place,
or until you're legally discharged therefrom.
or until legally discharged.
Okay, you're sworn in. Councilman.
So congratulations. We'll take a 5-minute break for Jessie to take pictures with his family. All right?
About time. Yes, definitely, always. Always a coming.
Can you check the audio?
Stand-up routine is constant.
Yeah.
The only way-
Someone just emailed, says it's not working. Test 1, 2.
Well, congrats. Or, you have my condolences.
Okay, it's
Whichever
working.
way you look at it.
pictures. Yeah, I'm trying to get you to move. Hey, thanks, Simon.
Good to see you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
We'll catch up.
Yeah, now we show.
Who?
So we have audio now?
All right, congratulations. Thank you. We're going to resume the meeting. There's just a few items before we get to the next, before we get to the motion to appoint the town council members to the committees. First, I want to take a moment of silence for George Bush, President George Bush Sr. Take a moment of a silent prayer for the former president. All right, thank you, everyone. And our town manager is also going to, we're fortunate enough to have a personal anecdote from the former president with our town manager, so our town manager is going to share that with us now.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Town Council President Pro Tem, Jill Lawler, asked me to share some personal reflections with this great man, President George H.W. Bush. I entered the United States Secret Service in March of 1985. I was sworn in as a special agent. And it was Vice President Bush at the time who gave me my diploma upon graduation from the Secret Service Academy. Over the next 5.5 years, I was temporarily assigned to the Vice Presidential Protection Detail and the Presidential Protection Detail on various assignments, including advances, intelligence work, post-standing, shift work, and jump teams. I also attended the January 1989 presidential inauguration and saw the president being sworn in. The men and women of the United States Secret Service love the President of the United States and his wife, Barbara. They treated all of us like we were family, and we found them to be friendly, polite, honorable, genuinely nice, humble people. Jill asked me today what my fondest memory was, and I was on assignment with him in many states, but the best memory I have is actually with his wife, Barbara. And in 1988, I was assigned as her limo driver at a South Carolina event, and Mrs. Bush was in the back seat, along with another Republican, a close friend. And myself and another agent drove her to her event. She was very nice to us, first time I'd met her personally. And she left the vehicle, walked to this event at a very fancy place. Within minutes, she walked back carrying 2 sandwiches and 2 sodas, opened the car door and said, I'm gonna be in there for a while, so I wanna make sure you get something to eat. I wanna make sure you're all set. So those stories went on and on and on. She was known to go in command post at these hotels we stayed at in a bathrobe, and she'd walk in and say, I knew you guys had coffee on, so give me a coffee. So she was just a genuinely nice, humble person. So was her husband. I actually had a chance to share that same story with then Governor Bush in 1997 while I was on the governor's detail on the state police. And he just smiled and said, yeah, well, that's my mother and father. They were always like that. They really respect Secret Service and all law enforcement. The last time I saw President Bush, President Herbert Walker Bush, was at the Bryant College commencement in 2008. I was on the state police at the time, and I was assigned there to provide additional security to the Secret Service. And as I was standing there, I was in uniform, President Bush walked by, caught eyes with myself and the other trooper, and came up. He saluted us, and I told him what I had done in the past. He said he didn't remember me, but he was very cordial at that time, very respectful, and he took 5-10 minutes just to speak to the troopers that were there. On a side note, 1989, President Bush was on a visit to Rhode Island. I was living out of state. I traveled back to Rhode Island to be on his detail, and that's where I met my wife on that visit to Governor DePreet's house. She was working for the governor at the time, and I happened to meet her that day. So I was talking to my wife this morning about it and was watching on TV, as everyone has, and it's like a scene from It's a Wonderful Life. You know, President Bush was truly a remarkable man, and, you know, I think we all feel the same way, that God bless our 41st president and the United States. Thank you.
We also want to take a moment of silence for Scott Partington, our fire chief's father, his recent passing. All right, thank you, everybody. The Festival of Lights last night did not take place because of the weather, so the new date for the Festival of Lights in the center of town is Saturday, December 8th at 5 p.m., and that's going to be the lighting of the tree, followed by the fireworks. So I hope everyone can come again on Saturday, December 8th. It's a wonderful event. Tonight, we are, 3 items are going to be withdrawn from the agenda, items number 10, number 22, and number 23. And the next item is our motion to appoint town council members to serve on the following committees as in accordance with town ordinances and town charter. Finance Committee, Patrick Murray. Galley Advisory Committee, Matt Mannix. Galley Lease Advisory Committee, Matt Mannix. Knights of the Rockingham Arch, Matt Mannix. Land Conservancy Trust, Jill Lawler and Jessie Pugh. Narragansett South Kingston Senior Advisory Committee, Jessie Pugh. Personnel Appeals Board, Jill Lawler. Recreation Advisory Board, Richard Lima. School Committee Liaisons, Jessie Pugh and Patrick Murray. School Capital Reserves Committee, Jessie Pugh and Richard Lima. Sewer Policy Committee, Jill Lawler and Patrick Murray. Towers Committee, Matt Mannix and Richard Lima. Washington County Regional Forum, Patrick Murray. Will someone move that motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Only missing one? Chamber liaison that we previously approved? Is that in the mix?
Well, we haven't, we can put that on for the next meeting, right? Because we don't. All right.
Patrick Ann has motioned that she'd like you to please use your microphone.
Narragansett Housing Authority, this is for the minutes. There's no liaison officially, but Jessie Pugh is going to reach out to work with this entity regarding affordable housing issues. Okay, so we have our motion regarding the assignments. Is all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. And now we have a proclamation for our town clerk. So I'm going to come down.
I didn't even see this.
Raise your right hand. No, I'm kidding. All right. A proclamation honoring Town Clerk Ann M. Irons, whereas Ann M. Irons will retire as Town Clerk on December 31st, 2018, after 10 years of public service for the town of Narragansett. And whereas Ann M. Irons began her career with Narragansett as Town Clerk on January 2nd, 2008, after 13 years as the elected Town Clerk of the town of Foster. Whereas Ann M. Irons received the designation of Certified Municipal Clerk in 2010 from the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. And whereas Ann M. Irons is a member of the New England Association of City and Town Clerks and a past executive board member, a member of the Rhode Island Association of City and Town Clerks, and is a past president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary, and served as a member of the board of directors for the New England Municipal Clerks Institute and Academy. And whereas, with the love and support of her husband Kenneth and her sons Nathan and Andrew, Ann M. Irons has completed over 33 years of dedicated municipal service to the communities of Pawtucket, Foster, and Narragansett. Now, therefore, all of our citizens join with us in extending to Ann M. Irons our deep appreciation for her distinguished service and our best wishes for many more happy and productive years in the future, adopted this 3rd day of December, AD 2018. Thank you, Ann, for all your service, and we really appreciate it. Okay.
We also apologize for
So our open forum public comment, this is the period of public comment where members of the community can address the council on issues of concern in the community. Mr. Barry.
Thank you for giving me time. I'm Dan Barry. I live in Bonnet Shores. I'm also the fundraiser for the library campaign and want to give you a brief update. Periodically, I'll be coming before you and giving you updates, nothing on a scheduled basis, but as need arise or requested. I was hired by the library board to raise a minimum of $1.2 million to $1.7 million. Tonight's purpose is just to give you an update on the fundraising process and the campaign itself. A fundraising campaign is a confidential way to raise money for a project. In our case, it's for the new library. All donors are, when they give anonymously until they give me permission to forward their names publicly, or if they get involved with the name gift opportunities that we'll have at the library. We just started the recruiting and pace-setting phase of the campaign October 16th. We couldn't do much until the building was officially turned over. Once that happened, a lot of things have been rolling along quite well. This week alone, we started recruiting our honorary campaign committee. Honorary means that people are lending their name to help us and showing support to the community. We'll make a gift at some point, but there's no meetings to attend, so they like that kind of committee. Since the 16th, we've had a few pace-setting gifts identified and solicited and received. We have one major six-figure ask to a foundation that's going to make a decision at the end of this month. We're very hopeful on that. The leadership committee won't be recruited until January 3rd. With the holidays, didn't make sense, and we wanted to get our honorary committee on board first. The leadership committee is the key committee group of individuals that are going to make the campaign work. They're the main group that's going to help us raise the money. We started negotiations, discussions with the Champlain Foundations, which is a major library supporter within the state whenever there's a library campaign. We're waiting to find out from them when we'll have our first meeting, but that request doesn't go in until April of 2019. It's a 1-month period for sending in requests, and we'll be ready, and we're getting their guidance as to what's the right ask. So we've raised some initial major gifts. This major foundation is separate from the Champlain. We're looking to get something at the end. I'm pleased to announce tonight that for the honorary committee, Terry Murray has agreed to be the honorary chair of our campaign. He and his wife will host a kickoff reception sometime in the spring, and that is going to be the kickoff for the campaign, official. We do a lot of things behind the scenes until that point. Again, once the building was officially turned over, our fundraising started and our recruitment started, and it's amazing what happens when we had the authority or the building within our hands. The next fundraising tool we need is a building floor plan. People are waiting to make decisions on naming opportunities, and what happens with a naming opportunity is there's prices for individual pieces of the library, and so it's important that we have this to show them. And the floor plan is the selling tool in a fundraising campaign. Nothing new. It's been going on for a long, long time. I've been involved in fundraising over 40 years. I'm very pleased to be helping out the library as a townie and also a supporter. But I do say, and I don't say this lightly, our fundraising is definitely going to be extremely well because we have excellent honorary and campaign leadership prospects already, some on board, some pending, thinking about it. We have high pacing, setting gifts already that we can't announce at this time. We've got committed volunteers. And I offer myself, anytime you want questions or want information, I'm available to present it to the council. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Richard.
Hi, Richard Vangermush, will use Mount View Road today. I'm a biker and kind of feeble, as you could probably imagine. And I like to bike on the sidewalk when I'm trying to navigate Boston Neck Road, getting very, very dangerous. However, I did see something unique, and it could have been a life-ending experience, and most importantly, my life. I'm biking along, we're going to turn on Iroquois, get off the sidewalk, touch on the shoulder, and what comes by, eating up half of the Safeway, supposedly, was a backhoe. Here is a backhoe driving half in the road, half on the sideway, so that cars can pass it. I mean, a very nice gesture, but in the midst of doing it, just missed me. And I see no reason why a backhoe should be loose on Boston Neck Road, especially going in an area where it is not supposed to go. It almost wiped me out, and this is not at all good. And it's really time. This has to be against the law, driving a backhoe on the street.
Thank you, Richard. Stanley.
Stan Wojciechowski, Narragansett. I want to thank you for serving on the council. I know it's not easy and it probably will be difficult times. And I've heard a lot about concern about the taxpayers, and I was glad to hear about that. And I'm hoping that you'll follow through with that concern for the taxpayers. And just to give you a goal as you make financial decisions, I was looking at Social Security check, and the federal government indicates, well, what they did is they increased my income by 2.66%. So I look at the federal government's pretty well determining that 2.66% is a kind of the cost of living increase that's proper that we all should see. Therefore, I was hoping that you would pay attention to this goal as you're making financial decisions for the taxpayers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else for public comment? Open forum. All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone on the council have an item that they would like to remove from the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, this will be a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item number 10.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Item number 17 is a motion to introduce, read, pass, and accept as a first reading an ordinance amending the land use map of the comprehensive plan on Assessor's Plat NR Lot 1095, 1007 Boston Neck Road from medium-low residential land use district to a commercial land use district.
I'll move that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion. So this is an item, this was in a public hearing in April of 2017, and the council voted 4-1 for this change. However, there were never, that was at the conclusion of a public hearing, but as you know, we need to have 2 readings of the ordinances, and the ordinance was never on for a vote. So that was discovered by our town staff, and so that's why we're here with this. I can turn it over to our town manager or to our town planning director if any council members have any questions or comments at this time.
No, let's just vote on it.
No, it's explained well in the program. We're bringing it down to 9 light uses, correct, Jim? If you want to just go through those uses, I think it would be helpful for the town. A through F, Section 2.
Councilwoman Lawler, I'm going to have planning director get up and just go over those
Sure.
9 uses. Is that okay?
Good evening. Thank you for asking me up. I realize this is somewhat uncommon to have such a delay between a hearing decision made and the ordinances to codify that decision coming forward. It was really nothing more than an inadvertent staff oversight in a time when we were keeping a lot of balls in the air, to put it mildly. Looking at the ordinance, you're looking at the zoning ordinance, I believe, Councilman. So that's item 18, the attachment to item 18. We're suggesting that, and this is what was agreed upon, that the zoning on lot 1095 and plat NR would be restricted. It would be changed from R10 to BB, general business, but restricted to 11 different uses, and I'll read those off. I have a table if you'd like me to put it up on the screen.
No, I just want to make sure that the town is aware of what the uses are.
Okay. No, I won't go with the code numbers, I'll just read them off. General commercial offices allowed by special use permit. General commercial offices up to 3 units allowed by, permitted by right. Beautician, barber, and shoe repair permitted by right. Travel agency permitted by right. Repair of small appliances permitted by right. Locksmith permitted by right. Legal office permitted by right. Engineering or technical office permitted by right. Government-owned building permitted by right. Accessory use to a permitted use permitted as an accessory. Accessory uses to a special use permit permitted only as an accessory. Those right. Just as a refresher, the BB, general business zone, elsewhere in town allows for 140 potential uses by right or by special use permit. So we've narrowed it down to that listing right there.
Okay, thank you.
Any comments from the council? All right. Any comments from the public? Yes.
No, obviously, this is close to my particular abode. And once again, I don't see where it is, though. I'm guessing. This is where the old Bonnet Market used to be. Where is this place?
Across the street.
Pardon me?
Across the street.
Across the street. It is absolutely critical when topics like this come up, something pops up so that the observers can see what we are talking about. I truly, you've got the address, the plot number. There is really no excuse for us not to view what we're talking about. And I certainly want to talk about it, but before I talk about it, I would like to know where it is and what it is, and it doesn't take much effort
Can I approach?
to put it up on the screen.
Yeah, Mike, why don't you zip the vision appraisals, bring up the map, and... Okay, you got, all right, you're all over it. All right, thank you.
So this is on the eastern side of Boston Neck Road. It's across from the gas station, the Seasons Market. Bonnet Shores Road, it's on the other side of Bonnet Shores Road.
It had once been a rental property in really disrepair.
Yeah, okay, I mean, I would love to see the building or the land. I mean, this is nice, but if I could find my house, I'd have an idea where we are talking about. I mean, just as a thought, I've mentioned this before. What is needed is a visual. I mean, this, Most of it is my fault for not having the visual acuity I used to have. But please, show me. Boston Neck Road, if this is a prelude to more traffic on Boston Neck Road, I'll refer you to what I said at open forum. This road is out of control. And adding more business to it isn't going to bring it more under control. It is absolutely unsafe. But please, just give me a chance so I can visualize what it looks like now.
Thank you, Richard. Stanley.
Just want to help Dr. Vangamish. This is right across from the gas station, Doctor, and it's a lot cleaner, neater, and quieter than what was there before. It's a real benefit to have this building on that site compared to what used to be on that site. He did a nice job of preparing the site and the house, and it's a benefit for us to see that there. So I just wanted to know that there is a very positive effect for this particular building, just to give him a hand on that. You know?
All right, thank you. Is there any comments from the council? All right, thank you. My concern back in April of 2017 was that Boston Neck Road, a lot of residents in the north end of town are concerned about the commercial creep on that road, and so I expressed my concerns at that time regarding, we have 2 pharmacies, 2 gas stations, and a lot of busy activity. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Motion approved 3-2. Is it time for my hearings? Do I have to go to those? Yeah, all right. So, we're going to go to our public hearings for 8:00 p.m. First is a motion to schedule a public hearing for a text revision of Section 6.3, Table of Use Code Regulations, in addition of a new Section 12.22, addressing development standards for churches and the zoning ordinance of the town of Narragansett. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. This is on scheduled for January 22nd, 2019. All in favor? Oh, wait, did you change that on me? I had it in my notes. Yeah. Why don't you sort out? Yeah, all my papers say January 22nd, so I just want to. You have you have 2 planning board meetings before that, correct? Yes. All right. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. A motion to refer to the planning board for a recommendation.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. A motion to schedule a public hearing to consider rezoning 3 properties to comply with designations assigned in the 2017 Narragansett Comprehensive Plan land use map. Is there a motion?
I move that motion.
I'll second it.
All right, discussion. This is scheduled for February, this would be February 4th, okay? February 4th, 2019. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. A motion to schedule a public hearing and refer to the planning board the issue of amending Narragansett zoning ordinances to address the Rhode Island General Assembly's passage of H7741 Substitute A, which amended height limits for buildings and parts of Narragansett.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. So this is a major issue facing the town, this legislation. essentially, to simplify it, would allow structures to tower into the 50-foot range because of because of an allowance in the floodplain areas that the height elevation would start at what's called a sea level rise factor. So we're going to be looking into this in more detail. Right now, we're going to look for a date to deal with this because the legislation, we do have an opportunity to remedy at the local level with our own ordinance changes. Other cities and towns in South County are doing that. But right now, I'm just going to be looking for a date, and I'm thinking it should be an off night, which would probably be the last Monday in January, which is what date, Jim or Ann?
We had that one down for January 22nd.
I kind of think it might want to be an off night. And that would give more time for staff. So January, it would be like, what's the Monday? What's the last Monday in January? All right, so if there's any concern about January 28th as a date, come
Mr.
up.
Fleming?
Yeah, if there's concern, please express it.
Do I need to be sworn? No. Sorry, Terry Fleming. We're going to hear this again on our regular December meeting. Right, Michael? Jill? Yes. Which is the 18th. And so if you schedule it sometime in January, we could even clean it up with another meeting, but we're going to do everything we can to get it to you by the end of the December 18th meeting.
Oh, okay.
It's going to go through a lot of revision, obviously, but what's that?
So you're thinking we could have it in mid-January is what you're saying?
You could, but if you did it an off night, I kind of like that because that gives us also a special meeting in January to clean up what we might need to clean up.
So what's the middle Monday in January?
14.
The reason we're doing this, everyone, I know this doesn't look perfect. This is a very important issue when we have a March 1st deadline on this. So, and we have to have 2 readings of an ordinance, and we don't have a specific ordinance in front of us. It's the most important issue facing the town right now. It's important. So what's that date, Ann?
14.
All right, so that would be Monday, January 14th. What's the problem?
It's advertising and it's...
Okay, so we'll stick with the last January. That's part of the reason I was thinking of the last, and then that gives us time, and we can schedule other special meetings. We have 2 council meetings to read ordinances, so that January 28th, is there a time the council would like to do that? 7 p.m. work for everybody?
Sure.
Jessie? Sure. All right, Rick? All right, so that will be 7 p.m. on Monday, January 28th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Next is a public hearing on an application from Michael Vickers to amend Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Zoning, adding a new section, Section 4.84, Boone Street Special District.
Move that motion.
This will be a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll move that motion to open the public hearing.
All right, discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We're opening the public hearing. Okay. So this is an item, it has gone to the planning board. The planning board does not have a package ready for us to look at. So we've opened this hearing, but at this point, we're going to continue this item because there's nothing to present. If Terry Fleming from the planning board wants to come forward to share any dates, but otherwise, I'll be looking for a motion to continue this.
I'll move that motion.
There a second?
Second.
Any questions for Terry?
No, we are continuing to look at this, and it's on our regular December meeting, so appreciate you continuing this, and then you can pick it up. You needed to open it now, though.
So we'll continue this to January 22nd unless there's another evening. No, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. A motion to receive and place on file the recommendation from the planning board.
So moved.
Reschedule.
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, and we're rescheduling the risk, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. Right. So this would be a motion to receive and place on file. I look for an amendment that this is also continued to the 22nd. Could someone move that?
I'll move that.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. You never thought scheduling would be so difficult, did you? All right, thank you. Item number 18 is a motion to introduce, read, pass, and accept as a first reading an ordinance amending the zoning map on Assessor's Plat NR Lot 1095, 1007 Boston Neck Road from an R10 zoning district to a BB zoning district.
I'll move this.
Is there a second?
Second.
This is related to item 17, which we previously discussed. This is changing the zoning map itself. Any comments from the council on that? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
No. Motion approved, 3-2. Item number 19, a motion to receive, accept, and place on file the town's updated hazard mitigation plan entitled Strategy for Reducing Risks from Natural Hazards in Narragansett, Rhode Island, a multi-hazard strategy.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second. It looks like Jill Sabo wants to talk.
All right, so we have a presentation from our planning department staff, Jill Sabo, regarding this hazard mitigation plan. Welcome, Jill.
Thank you. Okay. So good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. For those of you whom I have not met before, my name is Jill Sabo. I work for the Department of Community Development under Mike DeLuca. I'm here tonight to present to you the updated strategy for reducing risks from natural hazards in Narragansett, Rhode Island. That's also known as the Hazard Mitigation Plan. So the purpose of the plan has two immediate financial benefits. The first one is for residents of the town, property owners who currently have flood insurance policies and are in the special flood hazard area, to continue to receive a 15% per policy savings for property owners. And that translates to about $177 per policy, or approximately $260,000 townwide. The second, it allows the town to access FEMA grants. As an example of a recent grant that was awarded to the town, the Scarborough Wastewater Treatment Facility was retrofitted and flood-proofed, and that was through these funds. It also limits the potential disaster damage because we can do these mitigation strategies, and it eases in disaster recovery. So many of you may recall Superstorm Sandy. We received disaster funding after that. So the plan, the planning process. There's a local hazard mitigation committee. I'd just like to take a moment and tell you all of the power and the knowledge that was on this local hazard mitigation committee. First off, it was the town manager, James Manning. It was the police chief, Sean Corrigan. It was the fire chief, Scott Partington. The town engineer, Jeff Cicerine. The director of community development, Mike DeLuca. The director of public works, Mike DeChico, as well as the deputy director, Steve Dano. It was the building official, Tony Santilli, the IT manager, Dan Holland. We also had a representative from REMA, the Rhode Island Emergency Management Agency, Melinda Hopkins, and we have a consultant on board, Weston Sampson. The stakeholders in this process, obviously REMA, neighboring towns. I had many conversations with South Kingstown and Charlestown, very specifically on the plan. But there are multiple stakeholders that we engaged, and we engaged them through the public process. We had a survey that went out in January 2018. That survey was blasted to the entire email list. That was the comp plan email list. We put it up on Facebook. We put it up on Twitter. Both local newspapers wrote articles about it. We had a public comment period, and we had a public meeting. As well as that, we gave it to FEMA and REMA for a pre-review. Their commentary is incorporated in the plan before you this evening. So briefly, the elements of the plan. There's the risk assessment. So the Local Hazard Mitigation Committee, or the LHMC, we looked at the potential risks facing the town as well as the vulnerable areas. The risks are severe winter weather, flooding, hurricanes, high wind, drought. And then the vulnerable areas include things like critical roads, water and wastewater facilities, residential areas, and town-owned assets. Then we looked at the local capacity to address those to address those risks. That's on pages 63 and 64. Those include things like the Emergency Operations Plan. We have MOUs with neighboring towns. Within the departments, we have standard operating procedures. So all of those are listed. Then we looked at the strategy, the action plan. So there are 19 action items identified in this plan. I'll get into those a little bit more in a minute, and we prioritize them. And then the plan addresses the upkeep. So there's yearly monitoring, there's review actions as the funding becomes available. This is a 5-year plan, so we're going to be looking at it again in 5 years. Okay, the action items. So if you were to look at pages 70 and 71, you're going to see the list of 19 action items listed by our vulnerable areas. I'm not going to go through all of those, but I thought it would be important to point out the top 4. These action items, all of them were reviewed using the FEMA recommended prioritization tool called Stapley. It's in the plan. I don't want to bore anyone with Stapley. But the 4 main highest priorities that came out were bypassing the sewer mains. So if there were damaged sewers, it was how to block them. Retrofitting sewer pump stations, which can be problematic during storms. Then there's addressing causeways. As you know, we have multiple causeways in town that flood on a semi-regular basis, which block sometimes hundreds of people off from their homes. And the Scarborough Wastewater Treatment Facility, the jetty or the groin rehab. And that is rebuilding the jetty out in front of the wastewater treatment center. So the project timeline, we're actually halfway through this timeline right now. We had our public meeting on the 14th. The planning board recommended approval on the 26th. Tonight we're before you asking for approval. If we should get that, it will go to FEMA and REMA for their final review pending adoption. So they'll approve it pending adoption of the town council, and then it will come back to you for an adoption through a resolution. So if there's something else, there's always there's one more bite at the apple. I just want to summarize by saying that this plan, adopted in January 19, will continue to save property owners $260,000 a year, and it will secure a $750,000 grant to rehab the jetty. We've already been pre-approved for that grant. We need to have an approved plan for it. In addition, there are 18 other action items in this plan. We have 5 years. We could get funding for any number of those additional 18 action items. Questions?
Thank you. This is very important. We had a lot of reimbursements from FEMA in the wake of the Hurricane Sandy in 2013. So it's important to have a plan for this compliance. Any questions from the council?
No, great work on the grants as well.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you, Jill.
Mitigation for that microphone.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed. Motion approved 5-0. Might be the ghost of Christmas past. Item number 20 is a motion to authorize the town treasurer, finance director to enter into collateral agreements for the deposits of public funds.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. This item comes from the finance department. Are there any questions for Laura? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion approved 5-0. Item 21 is a motion to adopt a resolution establishing the 2019 Narragansett Beach Facilities Fee Schedule.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This item comes from Parks and Recreation. So I'm going to ask Steve Wright to come forward. As Steve comes forward, I'll help him out by summarizing, but thanking him for his work on this and for what we've heard from our residents, very happy with the changes at the beach. and making it more resident-friendly, which was our goal with these changes. So we're essentially codifying them, it's still those residential-friendly policies and fees, as well as the walk-on fee of $10. So I'm going to turn it over to Steve.
So good evening.
Good evening. Thank you.
We had the workshop in September, and we went over the 2018 policies, beach fees, and then we also went through the Rec Advisory Board in October. So based on those recommendations in the workshop, the Parks Department is requesting to go to the 2019 season without any policy changes and any fee increases. So basically, we want to replicate what we did this past season. I thought, based on all of our comments, as you just stated, Council President, that we had a very successful season. I don't think we should change our fees. I think we should continue in 2019 the way we're doing it in 2018.
And thank you, because we have gotten great feedback on the more resident-friendly approach. And I know it was a couple of years ago was tough to get that through, so thank you.
Well, we're always tweaking, and I just can't promise the weather. It's all about the weather, so we have good weather, and then we'll have a good season.
Can you promise us good weather for Saturday night for the fireworks after last night, Steve? Come on.
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay.
It'll be cold, but it'll be a good night.
Perfect.
I can promise you that.
Thank you. Any comments from the council? From the public? Stanley.
Stan Wojciechowski in Narragansett. I've come before you before on this issue. We know we're going to see an increase in our taxes. Therefore, I would say that we should be seeing an increase in fees for the services we produce. Certainly, going from $10 to $15 wouldn't really be a big problem. That's the price of going to a McDonald's, I guess. I don't know. It just seems that we could increase, and if we increase, maybe we could get, in lieu of taxes, a little more money to ease the burden on families in this town. So I want to propose that we increase instead of $10, it's $15, number one. Number two is senior citizens get a free ride. No, nobody goes for free. Senior citizens, if they got the ability to go to the beach, they don't have to work. They're rich. They can pay. Let them pay like everyone else. Why should we saddle the families with extra costs when the seniors don't pay anything? So we need to charge the seniors like anyone else. That's number two. Number three, yes, I'm a former military guy, and I understand military benefit. However, it should be means tested. In other words, only those who truly need the money or truly in desperation have an issue could get a deal on it as a military person. Other than that, I'm sure that no military person would want to get a break at the expense of some family who has to make up the difference that you could have given in lieu of taxes. So there's some changes we can make here to lessen the burden on families and taxes and just add a little bit more burden to those on the beach. And I'm sure everybody would be willing to pay because it is a fantastic place. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
So I'd just like to make a comment. Stanley, you mentioned about taxes with the beach. The beach is an enterprise fund. It doesn't have anything to do with the tax dollars. The beach runs itself. They do a wonderful job down there with the staff. It's noted as one of the best beaches in New England. So whether you raise the rate, lower the rate, whatever you do, there's no tax burden to the taxpayers, just so that everybody understands that.
Thank you. Joan.
Joan Mulligan, 59 Bow Run. I'm happy to follow Stanley because I'm going to seem mild-mannered about this. I bumped into Matt in my driveway when he was campaigning, and he said to me, "Oh, we're going to have a town council meeting about the beach." And then Here, this is on the rates is on the schedule for tonight with no town council meeting. I did attend the workshop, and I brought up an issue that's not really my issue, but it's an issue of a lot of people, and had I known this was going to be on the agenda tonight, I would have put out the call, and they would have been here.
I'm sorry I didn't call you. I apologize.
That's okay. I didn't read the agenda till this afternoon. But anyway, my issue is only one, and it's the issue for the dressing rooms in the North Pavilion, which everybody who goes to the beach knows. One resident, first of all, there's like 250 residents on the waiting list for one of these changing rooms. And these changing rooms have historically been a resident like me, and then I split it with one of my friends who's a non-resident, the $750 or whatever it is. And so my non-resident friend, uncle, aunt, sister, brother, whoever, gets a pass into the changing room and a pass to the beach, and also gets the opportunity for $100 to buy an additional parking pass, and they can park in the beach lots. I've been shut off out of the beach lots, and I'm a resident. And I pay $50 for a parking pass, plus those pesky property taxes to live here in this town. I think, and I've had discussed this with Steve for a little while, I don't want to hold up Steve's fee schedule from being printed, but I think we can carve off that parking pass for non-residents and discuss this at length. I think we can either say, no, you can't have a parking pass if you're not a resident, which seems fair to me, since I've got shut out of the parking lot, or if you want to lose these non-residents by attrition because there's 250 residents on the waiting list, you can say, okay, you can have a parking pass. It's $500. Either way, you know, we're still being shut, residents are still being shut out of the parking lot. Non-residents come to me and complain that they have to park in the south lot, and sometimes they get shut out. Anyway, I think this is only fair with 250 residents on a waiting list. If you don't want to knock out non-residents from this changing room because that's the way it's always been, then you can do it by attrition, by either saying you can't buy a second parking pass and you have to go and meet the resident and get in their car and drive down to the beach with them, or, yeah, you can have a parking pass, but it's going to cost you a lot of money. And I think for the time being, and we can discuss this later, and you can carve out that one piece of the fee schedule, which is that parking pass, and just put on the fee schedule under consideration to be determined later. And then you could have other people, like I said, I don't even want a horse in this race. I don't want a changing room. I can change at my house. But other people are really interested in this, and it sort of goes against the grain that you know, residents get shut out of the parking lot, and there's, I think, like 100 non-residents who get parking passes. So I would appreciate your consideration on this issue, and I know other people would too. I just happen to be the only one here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, do you have those numbers? You went back to gather something. Do you have numbers that you want
to? There are 263 changing rooms in North Pavilion. I don't have the exact numbers of the mixture to answer that question tonight. But as you know, when we were in the workshop this year and the previous year, what we did is through attrition, we did freeze for 2018 moving forward and grandfathered anyone that had a working relationship with a family member or a relative or a friend that could continue to have a non-resident on their lease, you know, in that North Pavilion. However, when they did drop out, then they'd have to be all residents, including that extra parking pass. So that we are doing that. So as people drop off that list, then they have to be all residents. So we did approve that, and it's moving forward. I don't have the exact number of people doing that. I don't have that information tonight. But I could obviously get that for you.
Perhaps at least the Rec Advisory Board could look at this specific issue at one of their upcoming agendas. That would
Absolutely.
be very helpful.
Absolutely.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Items number 22 and 23 have been withdrawn. Item number 24, a motion to approve, ratify, and confirm the emergency repairs to the Highway Division Vector truck number 22 completed by CN Wood Incorporated, the amount of $22,883.11.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
This item comes from the Department of Public Works. Any questions on this item?
Is that a new truck?
No, it's emergency repairs to an existing truck.
Yeah, but was it a new truck that got nailed?
No.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Motion approved 5-0. Item number 25, a motion to approve hiring one probationary patrol officer at the Narragansett Police Department.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, this is in anticipation of a retirement. Are there any questions for the police chief? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion approved 5-0. Item number 26 is a motion to approve hiring one dispatcher at the Narragansett Police Department.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Yeah, I just want
Go
to
ahead.
make a statement that these aren't additional people. These are just fill-in people who retired, correct?
That's correct.
Just want to make sure that gets out there. Stanley? No.
And this is contingent upon the resignation, obviously, of the dispatcher.
Correct.
But they need to get into the police academy
Right.
before the new year.
She did not retire, or they did not retire. They're going to
I'm
the
not the
academy.
police academy. I'm sorry. I was talking about the other one, the other motion. Yeah, no, this is just, and if it doesn't go through, we're obviously not going to fill a position that's still there. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item number 28, item number 27, a motion to authorize the staff to advertise the request for proposals for architectural engineering services relating to the library project conversion of the Belmont Market.
I'll move that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. This item comes from Patrick.
Okay, I put this on. As you know, we purchased the Belmont Market to build it out and put our new Narragansett Pear-Free Library, new location. An RFP for an architect does not cost the town any money. I believe this is something that should have been done 3 months ago to keep us on track with the bond money and a schedule that, so we can get this moving forward and get this done in 2 years. So, any thoughts?
Any thoughts from the council?
I have a few thoughts on it. So I was actually kind of surprised to see this as an agenda item in general, just because typically these sort of RFPs don't have to get town council approval. So even 2 weeks ago, there was an item for the Scarborough Waste Management Treatment Facility for a new roof. So that was voted on for approval for $140,000, and that RFP didn't come through the town council. So it typically doesn't have to at this stage. You approve the purchase, but not the RFP, because like Patrick said, an RFP doesn't cost any money. This one's already prepared, ready to go. We've all talked about wanting to know more about the cost and the figures in this project. We can't do that without getting the RFP out there. That's the first step in the process. Once we have that, we'll get a better idea on what we're looking at. And as Mr. Barry said earlier, this is integral to fundraising. We really need to have these plans, this floor plan. We all want to see $1.5–2 million raised for this project. Nobody wants to go over budget. We all want to see it succeed. And in order to do that, we have to the library board has to fundraise. And we need this, this is a tight schedule. We have 18 months to have all these, the entire bond issued, 18 months. So we bought it a month and a half ago, the building. We're already right there, against the wall on this. I don't see any reason really why we wouldn't go ahead with this at this point. And like I said, I was surprised to even see this having to get approved by the town council. I do think it's important to look at, both sides of this issue. You have to kind of get a perspective of both sides. So putting this list together on, the reasons to put this out, the reasons to hold back, and I've talked about a few of the issues why we should put it forward, and I can't think of a single reason why we wouldn't do that. Additionally, another reason to put it forward is the road bond. We can't move forward on the road bond until we made a decision on this project. So just in terms of fiscal responsibility, the fiscally responsible thing to do is to get this out there, get the numbers, and then make a decision, on which firm we go with and if we're going to pay for that or how we're going to pay for that. But we got to get the numbers. So this RFP, in my opinion, should be a no-brainer just to get it out there.
Okay.
Thank you.
So for me, I'm new to the council. There's a couple committees, or OLIS bond committee, that I need to meet with. I need to get the direction from them. I personally think once I get that direction, we need to do a workshop where we can put things in order. And once we get everything in order on what we're going to do, how we're going to pay for it, and how we're going to move forward, I can guarantee you we're going to move forward. I just hope everybody else will be able to move forward. Because once we get going, I'm going to be going. So I need to get my information first, and I mentioned that to council members. I'm going to meet with these people. I hope to meet with them before, if they can get their appointment squared away, before the second or first week of January, because due to the holidays. And then after that, if you want to schedule a workshop and then we move forward with this, I have no problem. Move forward with this, move forward with a building committee, because before we select anybody that's going to be an architect, I believe that the building committee should be a big part of what's going on with that as well. They're going to be an advisory board. They have a lot of knowledge. They're professional. And we need to do this in a very professional and business manner. The residents of our town want to know everything that's going to go on with this. And I'm going to be up front with it. But we're going to move it along. And everybody will be on the same page. So that's my feeling. I have no problem right now tabling this. But I think if you push it forward, you're not going to get the vote to move it forward. So I would say let's table it. And from there, we'll get another date. And we'll move forward with this. But that's how I feel about it.
Thank you. I also would encourage, especially the new council members, to try to meet with OLIS. I've been on conference calls with them over the last 2 years, but I think it's important for all of us, if we have questions, to get those answered. So I encourage everybody, if you're looking to do that, to go meet with OLIS on that. Richard, before that, any other council member thoughts?
Well, yeah, actually, one thing is, Jessie, as far as your point as the RFP, Patrick put the item on. It wasn't the town manager. Patrick put the item on.
right.
So that's a qualification for that. So it's not required by the town, but one of the town council people put it on. And one thing that we have always said is that if there's a town council person that wants an agenda item on, they can. So to answer your question about that, that's why it's there, is because Patrick wanted it on.
Yeah.
So as far as where I stand on this, Rick mentioned OLIS. Rick and I have asked the town manager to reach out to OLIS to make a meeting. More than 2 council members are not allowed to be together with a meeting unless having called a special meeting. So no, Rick and I want to go ahead and meet with OLIS and understand some more information. Do I want to put a for sale sign on the library? No, I do not. Not in the Gilbane bar. However, although Mr. Berry came and spoke to fundraising, we weren't given any numbers. I have no idea how much you have fundraised, and we need to know that. There was a letter written by one of the library board's husbands recently in the paper that said the town might be surprised to learn that we don't know how much the library project will cost, and that's very true. I think the town is also being very surprised to learn that we're not using the bond money right now. We've purchased the library building from Gilbane a couple months ago, and that's not with the bond money. That's with tax dollars. That's with our money that the town has. And the town finance director is very concerned about how long we will be floating that money without tapping into the bond money. But it all goes back to, I know that Matt wants to meet with bond counsel as well, because we need to have a better understanding of how much money needs to be fundraised before we can actually tap into the bond money. And I know that there's a lot of speculation out there. One of the papers covered last week saying that there are 3 members, myself, Mr. Mannix, and Mr. Lima, who are anti-library, and I'm here to tell you that's not true. However, we want to be very fiscally responsible about how we go through. We own a building, and in my opinion, it was pushed through without understanding facts, without knowing how much a building costs. Who would buy a building and not understand what the total impact would be on a town? Well, we own that building. We don't need to talk about that anymore. We own it, and I think it's in the best interest of the town for the library committee to fundraise and to get this purchase going forward. However, just as what Mr. Lima said, I'm not ready to make that tonight, that decision to go forward tonight. I'd like to see more fundraising. I'd like to learn from Mr. Berry how much money has been fundraised. The town, in my understanding, and Jim, please correct me, about 2 to 3 years ago, the town had given the library board of trustees $50,000 toward this project of architecture, which is a thing that, as Mr. Lima mentioned, we need to understand what the project is going to cost, and the only way we can find that is from an architectural study. However, that project, according to Mr. Cesarine, will take between $150,000 and maybe $200,000. I, for one, at this point in time, would like to see the Library Board of Trustees fundraise money to help that bridge point. We've already put $50,000 in, and the town has taken out of our pockets right now $2.8 million because we needed to purchase the liquor store building in order to not make it a condo. And I'm quite concerned about the taxpayer dollars in that effort. So I know I've spoken for a while on this. We want the library project to move forward. However, we need the fundraising to be more clear for us, and we need to have some answers from OLIS about reimbursement, about the schedule, about how much money needs to be fundraised before we can touch that bond money. There are so many questions that need to be handled and answered to make intelligent, thoughtful decisions. The town is a business. We need to start treating it like a business. There is no business that would make these decisions without having these answers.
So,
thank you. Jesse, go ahead.
I just want to follow up on the reason for it being an agenda item. So I know Patrick put it on. So then I guess, could we agree then if he takes it off, it can move forward just like every other project?
No, we cannot.
No, well, sometimes RFPs are on the agenda, especially when it's a serious enough item. And we've actually gotten ourselves in trouble. I recall in my first term when there was an RFP went out on something and the town got sued. So there are unique circumstances in which an RFP gets put on the agenda because you're asking people to propose. You're asking them to come forward.
But this was really put on because it wasn't moving, so it was put on.
But you're asking people to make proposals, so you want it in good faith that you're going to be going forward with those proposals. So the conversation here is the worthwhile one to have.
Because there's a lot of time and effort that takes place when you come up with a proposal. You have to come up, so it's a lot of time invested. So if we're going to ask people to have that time invested, my personal opinion is we need to be able to know that we have the money to be able to make a decision on one of them. And right now we don't have that money, and that's where I'd like to see the Library Board of Trustees fundraise some more for that money. That's where I'm coming from.
Okay, I guess this is where I pipe in. I put this on because this wasn't going anywhere. We own the building. It's been the 3rd week of October. We had a 15% reserve in October. Currently, we have a 12% reserve because of the $2.8 million. So the act of doing nothing is going to cost us more money than moving forward on this. We need to move forward. We need to know the numbers. This is the chicken and the egg. Well, this is the egg. We need to get that out there. Or the chicken, whatever scenario you want to, but we have to move forward. And this is, I don't understand. Either we're going to build a library or we're not going to build a library. There's no middle ground here. I mean, maybe we can get Laura Kenyon up here to explain how this is exactly going to work. She has a timeline, and if she could,
I think that's a summary, Patrick, and that's why I encourage people to go to OLIS. Right. That's why I'm meeting with bond counsel so that we actually do the work this time. That being said, my intention was to put a motion on for a work session with the Library Board of Trustees in the new year. So I'd be putting on a motion to schedule that at the first January meeting. Based on the conversation I've heard so far, is there a sentiment to continue this?
I would like Laura Kenyon to come up. I have a few questions for Laura, if she would.
Come on up, Laura.
Hey, Laura, how you doing? Sorry to drag you into this, but
It's okay.
is there any downside, financial downside, of floating this RFP out today? And it's going to take, what, 2 to 3 months before we get a decision, we get some kind of architectural or some kind of proposal from architectural firms? I've heard everything from a month to 3 months. So
They have 3 months after it's been awarded to
Okay.
give us,
Proposal.
and that's in the timeline,
Correct.
is basically if we put this out to bid in the middle of January, like January 14th, we could have the bid awarded and back by February 18th, and that would be 3 months later. So somewhere around
But we put it out-
middle of May, we'd have preliminary costs for the project.
Right. So if we put it out now, we would save 30 days, theoretically?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, every day that goes by, doesn't that kind of bump up against our budget in the new year and our, relationship to bonding and?
Well, the timeline that I put out there was the latest I would recommend we put the RFP out was the January or February date so that it could be awarded and preliminary costs could come back to the council before the final budget, operating budget is approved, so that we know the cost of the library project prior to us finalizing the operating budget. Anything past the February date would get us into the new year.
All right. Is there any downside of, putting it out now? I mean,
It would be a matter of, my opinion is fairness to the architects. If they put the work in and we're not going to award the bid to the architect, then I would say then you would wait if you're not going to award that bid.
okay, so the question on this, for this council, if we have an approved plan, instead of May, it would be April, right, theoretically? Are we going to award this contract to an architect? Or 4 months from now or 5 months from now, we're just going to ignore it and say, nah, we're not going to do that? I don't understand. There's no reason to hold this up. It doesn't cost the town any money. We can go through the old list and you can have the discussions with these folks to your heart's content, because you got time to process it.
Well, from
But
what
you-
Laura
but-
just said, I'm sorry,
Go
Matt,
ahead, no, go
but
ahead.
mid-January, February will be our timeline, and I believe that's what that Matt, myself, and Rick said, that we want to have time to have these meetings and discussions. Matt clearly mentioned that he put a workshop on for January with the library board. So I think that we're all thinking the same thing, Patrick, except we just don't want to
I
do
know,
it tonight.
but why are we delaying? I just don't understand
So that
the
we can
delay. If
answer-
we're going to build a library, let's build a library.
But there are some here that want some more answers, some questions, we want some more clarity.
Sources of funding, OLIS, these were all things that were not done last term. And I see no reason to discuss it further. I sat through the executive sessions. I think we owe it to the public to have a step-by-step process. And as I said, I encourage people to go and meet with OLIS, to meet with the entities, to find these answers out for themselves as well, because that's important. And when you rush things like this, as Laura said, if there's not an...
I don't think we're rushing, Matt.
I don't think we want to send out to architects or consultants requests for proposals if we're not sure if we want the Library Board of Trustees to be funding it from their budget or us. And those are the types of questions that we need to answer.
Laura, I had a couple more questions, Laura, if you don't mind. I'm sorry to drag you up here again, but Okay.
Okay.
How does OLS reimbursement tie into this project on their timetable?
You have to be a little more specific, I'm sorry.
Okay, well, they're going to, all right, say they're going to reimburse us 40%.
And it would be over the time period of the 20 years of the
Correct.
payback of the debt.
And that first payment begins on, say, groundbreaking or completion?
Completion of project.
Completion of project, okay. Well, there's your OLS answer there. Bond money. Where does bond money come into play? Does that start with could the bond money pay for the architectural proposal?
The opinion of the bond council is that in order to go to bond the $5.8 million, is that the total project has to be guaranteed, which means that we would have to have in place funding for the total project. And that would be that we would then ensure that the project will be completed to the people who are buying our bonds, that there will be a library completed when they buy the bonds.
So a major hurdle to clear right out of the gate is this RFP for a proposal for an architect. Because without a proposal, that's the key. We're going to have, an approved proposal from, I don't know how many architects are going to, jump in this race. But this is the starting point. Okay, this is where the gate drops. We look at the proposal, we choose one, and then isn't that theoretically where the clock really starts ticking?
That is your opinion. Basically, it is as soon as we have an architect picked, they would have 12 weeks to get back to us with a preliminary plan.
Right. Now, other projects in town, have we ever had an RFP that didn't go out because of whatever reason?
I can't answer that. I haven't been here long enough.
All right. But I just, this is, I mean, 2 years we had an election, we had a bond, they passed the bond. Now it's crunch time. We're all here elected officials.
And it's our job
we own the
through
building
and authorize the borrowing. So that's our job. So
well, I know, but the longer you wait, it's going to cost us more money.
I just want to update you on what happens with fundraising. We only started fundraising October 16th because we didn't have the building. Foundations would not look at us without having a building. Major donors said they would come on board, and they wouldn't give agreements until after the 16th. So for the last 5 of the last 6 weeks, because Thanksgiving week we didn't get to talk to anybody, we've been making some headroads. In terms of the dollar amounts that have been raised thus far, we're going to make an announcement in January with those dollar amounts, because we have some end-of-year surprises coming. To say it now or to tell you what I anticipate would be unprofessional and unethical. But I can share with you after the first year when we have commitments from folks. I have worked in fundraising for over 40 years. I worked at many libraries. I was the fundraising consultant for the Tiverton Library. They've gone through all the same things that you've been discussing. And I'd urge you to work with them as well to get some information. But one of the key things is what you're talking about. The $300,000 or whatever that percentage is for the architects, we can ask an architect just for the floor plans, and many times in a fundraising capacity, we receive that information free. So the donor that comes on board or the architect that comes on board is told right away, the planned gifts, the floor plan, the sight lines of the building we want that donated. And then we do the fundraising. Then you can worry about how we're going to pay for it. But we need also for fundraising and for foundations. We're going to be going to Champlain, which is the biggest foundation for our fundraising. We need to be ready in April. Right. If we miss April 30th, we have to wait another year. Right. They're waiting for us. I'm waiting for a call from them. I got a message today that they're working on how to get a date together for our group to meet with the Champlain folks. I've got other foundations with the same problem. They just need to know what it's going to look like. It's a simple problem. The math part, once we have that, the fundraising is going to take off much better and bigger because they're waiting for naming opportunities. So I need you to think in terms of working with the fundraising, because I know you want to do this right, and I appreciate it, and I know many of you for many years, one in particular, but we want to do this right. We all want to work together. But in terms of the floor plans that you need for fundraising, the dollar amounts raised today, you'll find out in January. Doesn't make any difference in January whether it's today or in January, because they will donate that piece of it, which is most important. But the RFP, you need to get out so that they get looked at. So just so you understand the fundraising part of this.
Can I speak with Dan again?
Sure. That's part of the reason I want a work session, Patrick, is to go through all of this in more detail.
Well,
but go ahead.
Well, the thing is,
it's not a
I
cross-examination.
put this on because, to me, this RFP should have gone out 3 months ago. I mean, to me, we're 3 months behind.
But why didn't you put it on 3 months ago?
Well, because we didn't own the building. As soon as we owned the building, but then we had a little hiccup with the council here.
Yeah, I just think we need to let Dan do his job. He has a history here. I mean, he fundraised for the field. He was successful. He lives in town. We need to put him in the best position to succeed in this, and it's not going to cost us anything. Free floor plans to help with fundraising.
So
and we know about the deadline. He said April. I trust we trust what he says.
Theoretically, what you're saying is, we can do the RFP, right? And then say we got 3 architects. You're saying all 3 of those architects, most likely, would donate the plans just to get things going.
They're not construction plans.
Right.
It's just typical
renditions.
There could be a lot of revisions that would cost money,
Right,
but it's
sure.
the first take of what it's going to look like, so that
Just the basics.
we all have an idea of what it's going to look like.
Because you're trying to sell, and basically you're a salesman, you're trying to sell something. You're trying to sell people this library. You got to show them something.
I'm selling a hope and a dream
That's
of
right.
a building. I need some help.
And the more pictures you have,
it helps.
The stronger the dream, the stronger the hope, right?
But we have a lot of people in town who have wealth that want to come on board. They're just waiting for certain pieces, and so I need your help to help make that happen.
So this is where we're at. We can kick this around for another 3 months, or we can make a decision tonight, move this thing forward.
And we should still do the workshops and still meet with all
Yeah, but then they're meaningless. The workshop is meaningless at that point.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is, because if people want to go forward, they want to know where the sources are, they want to get answers before they do it. That's been the whole problem, what they just expressed, right? So let's... The gun to the head on the library project routine has to end soon,
This isn't gun to
Patrick.
Mannix. Listen, we're at 12% reserve. We keep dragging ass, if you want me to say it. I will say it. Then we're going to start bumping against our budget. We're going to start bumping against our bond rating, okay? This is not going to cost us anything. And it's just been relayed to me that most architects are going to donate the plans that we pick them. They're going to donate them so we can use them for fundraising. So to me, this is a no-brainer. I don't understand what reason it is not to vote for this.
Well, people have articulated there's 2 points of view. And when you hear the no-brainer argument, which is a somewhat condescending argument, then it gets people go like this instead of trying to come together because of the divisions. I said it's going to be difficult, not impossible. That's why I'm saying let's put on a work session and talk through it, because we have to authorize the borrowing.
Well, this has been a nice little work section here. Are there any other questions you councilmen have? Are there any questions you councilmen have?
Patrick,
right here.
Right now there's a motion on the table. There was some sentiment to maybe a motion to continue. If somebody wants to put that on, they can do that, or we can vote on the underlying motion. It's really up to all of you what you all want to do.
So Laura spoke and said if it's workshops the end of January and we move forward on February, we're within where we're going to be. Dan Barry's going to have some numbers in January. I am definitely moving. Patrick, I'm going to speak, and then I'll allow you to speak. I am going to move forward with what I think is right for me, representing my constituents in this town, okay? This is going to be handled professionally, like a business.
Okay.
We're not going to be doing any of this. If you want us to vote no, then it'll have to come up. I'm telling you we can continue this, and it can fly as soon as we have our information, put the workshop out there, and then we will move forward as fast as possible. And I guarantee you, somebody might not be able to catch up when I get going.
All right, Richard.
What we have for years is a failure to communicate. And in here, we see in parentheses, conversion of the Belmont market. The Belmont market is what the taxpayers, the voters in the 2016 election voted for. This is not what the RFP is about. It's about, yes, it's about the Belmont market. And then it's about the liquor store. And then it's about what I call the indoor shuffleboard court on the second floor. This is the package you are asking an architect to look at. This is the only package that will give you a total cost figure. I mean, to use the term the Belmont market is just absolutely confusing. We know what the Belmont market is, we voted for it, but we've added the liquor store and then the indoor shuffleboard court. This is what an architect has to work with to get at the total cost of this project. And to use the term the Belmont market, that ain't right.
Patty.
Belmont Library?
Hi, I just wanted to say, as you know, my name is Patty Arkwright. I'm the library director. I've been a librarian for 27 years at this library, and I've offered this to some of you individually. I'm going to offer it to you as a group. We have the information at the library that we've researched over the past 10 years. By profession, I have to remain neutral, and I think you've seen me remain neutral over the past few years. But right now, I'm offering you to contact me, and I can show you documents, I can show you emails and information about some of the questions that you have. And I think that is a good place to start. As I say, by profession, I am a neutral person. I know how to provide information that you request. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Have any of you folks been contacted by the library to research this some more? Or?
So
yes, I have, and I'm going to be going down there probably this week, depending on my schedule.
You know, this is a very pressing issue.
Well, the choice now is, do you want us to table it, Patrick? Do you want us to vote on it?
Right. I mean, basically, that's an option. People can go talk to Patty. You've heard people want to talk to Olis. So is there any sentiment here for a continuation of this item? Or?
Yeah, let's continue it.
I move to continue.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item number 28, a motion to restructure the library building committee based on Olis's recommendations set forth below.
Okay, this is me.
So this comes from Patrick. Yeah, is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. This is from Patrick, the restructuring.
Okay, I'm sure Dr. Vandermish will agree with me on this one. He's been asking for a building committee since '67 for the library. So here, if you look up on the screen, we actually have names on the screen. We actually passed this library committee in the last council. So I'm amending this to add names to this building committee. These folks up here have tentatively agreed. And again, the pressing need to move forward on this is imperative. And on the library side, according to Olis, this is the breakdown of the committee. We've got Laura Kelly, Patty Arkwright, and Tim Sullivan. On the town side, we have Tom Fury, Mark Shovlin, and Dave Grundy.
So Patrick, so this is another one of the items I want to speak to Olis about. What OLS recommends and what OLS requires are two different things. I also want to understand from our bond attorney's perspective, what does a bond attorney want to see as far as the building? So we have questions to be answered. Matt's made it clear that we can have a workshop in early January. By that time, Matt will have spoken with the bond council, Rick and I with OLS, and we can move forward. But I think you're hearing, Pat, tonight is we're not going to move forward unless we have questions answered.
Well, this breakdown, this committee was from OLS.
Right.
This wasn't from me. I just put asses in the seat. That's all I did.
The history here is that we created a building committee in the spring. In the spring, we created a building committee and can dig up for us the names on that committee and who was on that. Ricky was actually one of the people on that committee. And then obviously that committee didn't spring into action because there was no building to talk about yet. Then at our last meeting on October 15th, we had the item regarding the new committee, which was OLS's recommendations. So we have a new committee that we would need to populate. I didn't vote for the new committee. I was fine with the existing committee. So again, we find ourselves at an impasse because, well, I don't know what everyone else thinks. If people want to appoint people to this committee, we don't have applications from people.
All these people have been vetted for previous, all of them have been on the athletic committee, the athletic building committee. Steve Gormley, he's superintendent of the buildings and the school department.
My personal view would be, and it's just my view, was that I would go back to the old committee from the spring and replace Rick Lima, who has been elected to the council.
Well, they don't want that committee. They want 3 from the town.
No, the
three
town
from the
council
library.
voted 3-2 on October 15th, and that rush of things shoved down our throats on this. That's what happened. Any other conversation from the rest of the council?
Matt, if you will, OLS does not.
It's OLS recommendations.
Yeah, well, OLS they're the ones cutting the check.
It's recommendations.
Yeah, well,
you don't take the recommendation of every consultant, Pat.
Well, if they're cut.
Otherwise, we can all go home and OLS can take over the town library issue.
I think I'd like that decision a lot more.
Oh, good.
So don't we want
That's great.
to adhere to the standards of the organization that's reimbursing us money?
No, we want to make sure we have a building committee that is philosophically is going to be doing what the town wants, not what the outside consultants tell us.
It's not strictly OLS. This is also with input from Patrick and people in town.
There's only one new person. Those people on that committee were on the previous building committee. There's only one new added person. So what you want to do, you want to wait, replace Ricky. I already did with Steve Gormley. But the thing about this is that we got library side and town side. This is the breakdown that OLS wanted. That's what's different from the previous committee. So this is just a little adjustment just to keep this train down the track. We're going to keep moving this train. Because otherwise, for me, every day that goes by, it's going to cost us money if we bump against our bonding, we bump against the budget. And Matt, I'm trying to help you fulfill your campaign promise of lowering taxes, keeping taxes low in Narragansett. Because if our bond rating gets abused.
Patrick, I have a pretty good, I'm the one in the budget sessions that aren't televised who does the work.
Oh,
and others rubber
I
stamp
I
it.
know.
So I think the town solicitor has a comment that he wants to make.
Yeah, I think what's important to keep in mind, as I said this the last time this committee was being discussed, there was a meeting where Lori Kelly, myself, Jim, bond counsel, I think Patty was there, I'm not sure, Laura was there, and OLS is definitely has requirements, and they're strict requirements. But bond counsel also has requirements to ensure that federal law and state laws are complied with, otherwise the bonds aren't getting issued. So there's the issue of the reimbursement, and there's the issue of issuing the bonds and getting bond proceeds. So I said this when Susan was, leading the discussion. I think when you form a committee, you better be careful that it's going to ensure compliance both with the bonds and both with OLS, because there is no library without the bonds. So that's all I wanted to say.
And that's why we want to have Matt speak with the bond counsel as well to find out what they believe. So I would like to go ahead and then ask the motion to also be tabled, and we can, after Matt speaks with the bond counsel, after Rick and I speak with Olis, we can go forward.
Is there a second?
No, I want to move it forward. I don't wanna
Second.
Table it.
You don't want to table it?
I don't, no, we want to move it forward. Want to continue. We don't want to table it. We table it, it ends
No.
up in a closet somewhere in the bowels of this building, and we'll never see it again.
So you
There's a
want to make...
motion to table in a second from Ricky.
I want to continue. If you table it, Rick, it dies. If you continue, then it has life again.
I'm fine to amend it to continue.
Yes, I'll second that.
Discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion approved 5-0. Item number 29 is a motion to approve the Town Council meeting schedule for calendar year 2019.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion approved 5-0. Item number 30, a motion to cancel the Town Council meeting schedule for Monday, December 17th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Why are we canceling this meeting?
Because it's a week before Christmas, and I think we could give the town staff and everybody a little bit of a break. We've had a busy schedule this fall, so I felt that it would be good. When I was president in 2015, I asked to cancel the second December meeting.
Well,
I think it'd be good for everyone's tempers to cool down a little bit.
Yeah, but don't you think we just piled on January with all these library issues? Don't you think we should, run through some of the agenda items and some of the, light duty that fall on prior to Christmas and just have a quick meeting on the 17th?
Well, it may not be quick.
Well,
Go ahead, Win.
I was just going to echo, Patrick, you've got so much work to do, especially with the library. You only have 2 meetings a month. And from what it sounds like, we're up against the wall getting to this end of April. I don't think any meeting should be canceled. I think things should be brought forward, discussed, and moved forward.
Thank you.
I mean, this isn't Washington, D.C. We just got elected.
Yeah.
Can't go on vacation quite yet.
We had the meeting right before Thanksgiving. That was the week of Thanksgiving. So if it's a holiday issue, there's already precedent for doing a meeting during that week. We have all the library issues that I think we can may come up in the next meeting. And then also the zoning ordinance that Terry Fleming came up and spoke about the height restrictions for the buildings in town. I think the more meetings we have, keep them scheduled.
Yeah, but that's not going to be discussed at the second December meeting. There's no public hearings. Part of the reason I did this is we didn't have public hearings scheduled. We probably won't have the library items that were just continued. I don't think they'll be ready for the second December meeting. I think we can put on a motion to schedule a work session in the new year. I think it would be good for all, give some people.
Is there scheduling conflicts with anybody? I mean, I'll be here. So you got at least one person. You need 3 people. I will be here the 17th. I don't go anywhere.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
Nay.
Motion approved 3-2. Item number 31, a motion to appoint one individual to the Conservation Commission to fill a vacant seat for an unexpired 3-year term ending on April 30th, 2019. Is there a motion to appoint? We have a resignation from Sarah Wigington. Is there a motion to appoint someone else?
I'm still getting over the missing the December 17th meeting, so
So moved.
But does anyone have an individual that they'd like to? I mean, we can continue it. There's 2 applications,
Yeah.
I believe.
Right, there's 2 applicants, a Richard Thomas Nasser and a Brian Grieve, that were in your packets.
Does anybody have an individual they'd like to? I mean, we can continue it if you're not prepared to vote on this. All right, so I'll look for a motion to continue this
I don't
item.
know either, and I
Yeah,
haven't
that's
had a chance
fine.
to speak to
Yep,
them.
That's fine. Motion to continue.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, item number, I'm actually going to ask for a motion to move item number 35 up on the pension board.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
And the reason, just so everyone understands why I'm doing this, is because there's a person resigning from one board, but we need to appoint to this board first, and then the other person, right, so we can switch it out. All right, so this is going to bring us to item number 35. So this is a motion to reappoint, reappoint 8 individuals to the pension board for 2-year terms to expire on November 1st, 2020. But before asking for a motion, I'm going to break that out. I'm first going to ask for a motion to reappoint Andrew Baruda.
I'll move that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, next there would be a motion to appoint Gerry Sahajian.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion. Ben Ingenieri is no longer a town resident. Ann and I spoke with him on the phone today, thanked him for his service, and he's served very well at the town very well on the pension board. But because these are the 3 boards, planning, zoning, and pension, where our decision-making boards, we have a policy that town residents need to serve on those boards. So this is a motion for Gerry Sahajian. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Next item, then it's a motion to confirm the 6 reappointments that come from other entities. Michael DeLuca from SMT, Michael Stone from representing the fire department, Dan Holland representing local union 1033, Robert Barber representing the police, Mary Jane Gray representing the school department, and Terry Donovan from local 179 FCASME. Is there a motion for that?
So moved.
Second. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I have a question.
Yep.
It says there, say, DeLuca.
Yeah.
No offense, don't mean to pick on you. Pretty slow on that screen there, but we'll let it go. He's appointed in January 2017. Now, isn't there like a 4-year? You can't be on the meeting. Is there any? All right. Not for employee. Okay, but
they're not at large.
Committees.
Yes.
In other committees.
We're confronting that for the first time this January.
Right. Okay.
So we have term limits, but these guys aren't term limited
right,
because they come from
the unions. Right.
Right. We're only confirming their appointment. We're actually not picking them.
Understood.
They're being picked by their entity.
Their respective.
So it's kind of a formality. I mean, you can make the argument we really don't need to confirm them.
But generally, it's 2 terms, right?
It's 2 terms, and some terms are shorter than others on certain boards.
All right. Okay.
So we're going to have some boards changing over with short terms.
All right.
In the new year. All right, this is to confirm those 6 appointments. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. All right, that brings us to item number 32, a motion to appoint 1 individual to the Galilee Advisory Committee to fill a vacant seat for an unexpired 2-year term ending on May 31st, 2020.
I nominate Janice Hawley.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Right, excited to have Janice join that committee. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item number 33. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, this is a motion to, I'm going to break this motion out as well. I'll read it first and then do the breakout. A motion to reappoint 2 individuals to the Juvenile Hearing Board for 2-year terms to expire on November 1st, 2020. 1 individual to the unexpired vacant seat with a 3-year term, which will expire on 11/1/2020, and 1 individual to the vacant seat with a 1-year term to expire on 11/1/2019. So the first is, I'm going to break this out for you, Ann, okay, is to reappoint 1 individual to the Juvenile Hearing Board for a 2-year term to expire on November 1st, 2020, and that reappointment is Joan Ritchie. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. Then we have a motion to appoint or reappoint 1 individual for a 2-year term to expire on November 1st, 2020. And
Excuse me,
is
Matt.
there a motion for somebody?
Mr. Hart has already been appointed to the Harbor Management.
Yeah.
And now Janice Hawley was just appointed to Galilee. And Earl Jackman.
I believe he's interested in a different committee, not
Right.
this committee.
So now we don't have a
That's why I broke it out,
Yep.
because I didn't have names for those.
We need people for the juvenile hearing
So the
board.
Juvenile Hearing Board has several vacancies. So the motion that I just read to appoint somebody, there's no candidate for. So,
I got plenty of members on that building committee for the library, if you want to borrow one.
so at this point, I think we'll just withdraw that motion. All right, item number 34 is a motion to reappoint Patty Sylvia to the Land Conservancy Trust for a 3-year term to expire on November 1st, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second? Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. Finally is a motion to direct the town clerk regarding increasing the number of authorized liquor licenses in 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This allows businesses to come forward if they have an interest in a liquor license. So it's an advertising period. Did I characterize that correctly?
For BV.
For BV. For BV zone. BV licenses. Zoning. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move that motion.
Excuse me, Matt.
Oh.
We found an error.
What?
I know.
Yeah.
Number 16 on consent.
Yeah?
Well, that can't be.
The agenda item got revised at the last minute.
Yeah?
I changed the agenda item, but not the motion itself on the agenda.
So let's just put that on for January. Is that okay? Yeah.
Okay.
Because that was a last minute one anyway. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0.
Baldwin, smoke 'em if you got 'em.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, everyone.